Is it possible, just possible, that what you call delay is not delay at all? Yes, yes, it is possible to discover that the very thing which seems to be standing still is the law of spirit moving without noise, without calendar, without the whipping of your nerves. Now, you tell me, but nothing is moving, the days are slipping, the calendar is accusing, I'm behind. Behind what? Behind a number printed on paper? Behind an expectation you married without asking if God gave the ring? That, my friends, is the torment. The human mind looks at stillness and names it failure, sees quiet and calls it lateness, and that is not law. That is panic. Now let us for a minute accept this. The clock is not the measure of God. The sweep of a second hand is not the movement of spirit. There is no such thing as spirit hurrying to catch up with Tuesday. There is spiritual law, and spiritual law is not bound into boxes called months. The unfoldment of God, the appearing of good, does not borrow its legitimacy from your schedule. All right, then what is this sense of being late? It is using time as a ruler to measure what only consciousness can reveal. It is trying to weigh light on a butcher's scale. It cannot be done. The more you pound the dial, the less light you see. Now you and I, sitting here, let us accept for a moment that postponement, as you call it, may be preparation in consciousness. Is that optimism? No, not optimism. Law. There are no detached outer effects. All flows forth from consciousness. If the outer picture seems unmoving, look not to the calendar, but to the state which projects the picture. The human mind lives on a timeline, striving, getting, counting, always stepping on the gas because not yet feels like never. And so it interprets the holy pause as punishment. It isn't. It is often the clearing of the lens through which the scene must appear. Don't forget this. Spirit does not postpone itself. Spirit reveals itself when obstruction is melted, and obstruction is always fear in disguise. Hurry is fear. Pressure is fear. Clutching is fear. And fear clouds vision. So we will not argue with the calendar. We will set it aside. We will come to law. We will come to that inner recognition that says, all that the Father hath is mine, already mine. When that dawns even a little, the sting of not yet loses its poison. And we will take a gentle but exacting path. We will make an inner audit, not to condemn, not to scold, but to locate where striving is pushing against the very door it wants open. We will see how fear tightens the hand, and how a tightened hand cannot receive. We will learn to rest, not as passivity, not as neglect, but as spiritual poise, calm action without pressure, so that divine timing, which never strains, may be felt as naturally as breath. Now, if we can accept this even in small measure, the accusation of the calendar will fall silent, and the law of unfoldment will have room to speak. Now, if we are honest, the sense of lateness is born in a very simple habit. Humanness counts by getting results, getting approval, getting security, getting there before someone else. That is the air of the human timeline. And on that air, delay smells like deprivation. Not yet reads as not yours, and in that instant the heart squeezes, the breath shortens. The mind starts picking up the tools of getting and goes to work as if God had retired and left you the portfolio. That is how the panic of not yet begins. Not with time, but with the belief that value, safety, and worth are annexed to a date, to a signature, to a door opening on your command. Look at the way it proceeds. It begins respectably. Planning, scheduling, list-making, setting aims and targets. All right, there is nothing sinful in a calendar. But then comes pushing, nudging, reminding, tightening, insisting, circling back until it is chasing. Then comparing. Who is ahead? Who is behind? Who started after me and arrived earlier than I? Then bargaining, promising favors, trimming integrity, composing the letters that say too much, withholding the ones that should have been gifts. Then manipulating, arranging outcomes, playing angles, speaking two languages to two ears. And when those fail, resenting, souring the heart, condemning persons, envying their good, rehearsing their imagined advantages. Then despairing, calling the good blocked, calling God silent, calling your life stuck. That whole parade, from the respectable to the ruthless, is one thing under many names. It is getting. Now ask yourself a question and answer it where you sit. When did your worth become dependent on a date? When did your sonship, your daughterhood, your inheritance in God become a hostage of the calendar? Who told you spirit runs on your timetable? When did the sun begin to rise by your alarm? Never. It never did. The issue, then, is not with planning. Orderliness is a virtue in the realm of instruments. The issue is panic. Panic that believes life is outside, believes supply is scheduled, believes approval must be appeased. Panic is distrust, and distrust, mark this well, manufactures the very feeling of delay as a punishment. It interprets stillness as loss, and then it calls the loss evidence. That's the trick of the human timeline. And I hear the objection already. Your very first reaction. But if I don't push, nothing will happen. That's not true. That's not true. There is a law of unfoldment. There is an order inherent in spirit that requires not your strain, but your availability. When you are poised, you act, without pressure. When you are clear, you speak, without bargaining. When you are resting in inner sufficiency, steps appear, without chasing. You do the next right thing, yes. You sign the paper that is yours to sign, yes. But you do not whip the hour. You meet it. Don't forget this. What torments you is not time. Time has never whispered one cruel word to you. It is the getting mentality that, seeing a quiet field, calls it famine. Seeing a winter calls it death. Seeing a Sabbath calls it laziness. It is the finger jabbing the elevator button as if steel cables respond to temper. No, no. The cure is not more jabbing. The cure is to withdraw from the whole game of getting long enough to see that stillness is not loss, that quiet is not deprivation, and that what is yours by law does not need your panic to appear. Now you come to law. Don't miss this. There are no detached outer effects. All flows forth from consciousness. That is not poetry, and it is not optimism. It is law. Every scene on the screen of your day has its root in the film running within. If the picture seems to halt, the projector is not out there. It is here, in the state we are entertaining, the stance we are believing, the atmosphere we are breathing. All right, then what is the atmosphere of impatience? It is a climate of not enough dressed up as urgency. It hurries, and in hurrying it stumbles. It speaks too soon, promises too much, spends tomorrow's strength today, and calls the bruise opposition. No, no. It is the externalization of its own pressure. Watch how this works in the small and in the large. Impatience becomes a state, and states always seek their likeness. The hurried decision invites the hurried consequence. Contracts signed with a tremor in the hand, partnerships formed with a knot in the stomach, and then the surprise fracture later. The anxious call that bends a truth to close a sale becomes the client who later bends away. The string of almosts, almost funded, almost hired, almost accepted, repeats because almost is the very vibration of a mind that will not rest in having. It lives in reaching, so it externalizes reaching. It is not fate, it is law. Not yet believed as lack must show itself as doors that seem to come close and then glide away. Now let us distinguish activity from activity. Right activity proceeds from inner assurance. It has the tone of already mine. It moves without push, speaks without strain, and it does not defend itself. Anxious activity proceeds from fear of lack. It is the same outward motions, emails, interviews, drafts, meetings, but each is a bargain, a plea, a wager against time. One is seed cast because there is bread in the barn. The other is scrambling for crumbs because the barn is imagined empty. Outwardly, both are busy. Inwardly, they are worlds apart. Take business. In scarcity consciousness, you either overreach, discount beyond wisdom, flatter beyond honesty, chase a prospect down the hall, or you withdraw, delay the call, hide from the meeting, over-polish the deck because it is safer to prepare than to appear. Both overreaching and withdrawing look like delay on the calendar. Why? Because they are the same fear wearing two costumes. Consider the job search. The desperate interview tone, talking too fast, selling too hard, closes hearts. The avoidant tone, canceling, postponing, circling back next quarter, closes doors. The result is the same no movement, and the cause is the same, a sense of not having. In creative work, forcing words from tension yields brittle pages you will scrap tomorrow. Freezing from doubt yields blank pages you call writer's block. In both, almost finished becomes a life pattern, not a muse problem, a consciousness pattern. Now remember, we are not blaming the picture. We are diagnosing the light on the film. If the outer seems stuck, begin not with the levers of effect, but with the state that thinks it must lever. The remedy is not to force a different scene. The remedy is to yield the projector, yield consciousness to truth. Withdraw the belief in outside supply. Relax the fist that clutches time. Accept, even for 1 minute, all that the Father hath is mine, already mine. Let assurance settle until the breath evens. Then act if action is given, rest if rest is given, speak if speech is given. You will find the outer rearranging without strain, calls returned that you did not chase, right doors that do not wobble at the hinge, the almost completing itself because you ceased living in almost. That is unfoldment. That is law. Now let us accept something so simple, so complete, that the mind wants to run past it and keep hunting. All that the Father hath is mine, already mine. Not promised for later, not awarded after milestones, not released when the board approves, when the market swings our way, when the clock nods. Already mine. Now if that is law, and it is law, then the pain of waiting does not come from time. It comes from not believing the law. The sting is not in the calendar. The sting is in the fear that supply is outside. Outside in people, in bosses, in customers, in institutions, in the algorithms and the weather and the fashions of the hour. And if supply is outside, of course you must hurry. Of course you must flatter. Of course you must bargain with delay. But if source is within, infinite, indivisible, then tell me, what can the outside add to you? Nothing. Nothing. God is the source of my being, and the infinity of my being. Since I am one with my source, nothing can be added to me, and nothing can be taken from me. What do I need from time? Nothing. Nothing. What do I need from delay? Nothing, except the lesson it reveals. Do you see what happens to the nervous system when this is more than words? The breath evens, the shoulders lower, the hand unclenches. The mind stops scanning the horizon for signs and begins to listen within for rightness. You are no longer a beggar at the window of tomorrow. You are an heir living out of a treasury that cannot be emptied. Now the objection arises. The old habit speaks. But I still need the contract, the callback, the open door. Certainly the forms of good appear as contracts and calls and doors, but the good itself is not in the paper, not in the ring of the telephone, not in the hinge. The good is the inflow of spirit through the avenue needed at the moment. If the avenue changes, the inflow does not dry up. That is why anxiety drops when you abide in already mine. You stop chasing omens, numbers on clocks, likes on posts, friendly nods in corridors, and you begin to move by inner release. You act when there is an inner yes, you refrain when there is no inner witness, and you do not call either action or restraint delay. You call it order. Don't forget this. To him that hath, consciousness of having, shall be given. Not because heaven rewards smugness, but because like begets like. Having begets having. Reaching begets reaching. If you must reach to feel worthy, you will externalize reach. If you rest in worth, you will externalize worth. And so decision-making changes. It ceases to be a race for signals and becomes a quiet obedience to what is already true. You wait, but the waiting is not painful because you are not starved. You are fed. Supply is not in the schedule. It is in your oneness with Source, already. Now we come to the marrow of this seeming stillness. What is preparation in spiritual terms? Not punishment, not abandonment, not God teasing you at the window. Preparation is the ripening of consciousness to the form that must appear. It is the inner substance taking on such rightness, such alignment, that when the form comes, it is yours, without strain, without loss, without the poison mixed in. In other words, the appearing is not manufactured on a deadline. It is recognized when the within and the without match in tone. All that the Father hath is mine, already mine. Preparation is your consciousness knowing it so clearly that the outer can only agree. Now do not forget this, and don't let the mind argue with it. Nobody ever created the law of lift. Nobody ever invented wireless. No one gave birth to mathematics at a committee meeting. Those laws were not assembled like furniture because a calendar shouted. They were there. They were there when men walked, when men crawled, when men sat under trees. Discovery came when receptivity was ready, when fear of ridicule melted, when motives were cleansed of vanity enough to listen. Is it possible to visualize how that applies to you? Yes. Yes. What you call nothing happening may be the hour in which fear is being drained out of your ambition. Pride is being sifted from your service. Dependency on persons is loosening its grip. And a subtle misdirection is being corrected 2 degrees so that destination and destiny finally meet. All right. Let us name the hidden labor of spirit so that you do not slander the quiet. Spirit aligns motives so that what you want to do and what is right to do are not at war. Spirit removes fear so that the good, when it appears, does not own you. Spirit dissolves dependency so that you are not bribed by applause or blackmailed by rejection. Spirit corrects direction so that your talent ceases pushing at the wrong door with admirable persistence. Outwardly, you make breakfast, send emails, commute. Inwardly, the scaffolding is going up. The old load-bearing wall of anxiety is coming down. The wiring of trust is being laid. To the hurried eye, nothing changes. To law, everything is moving. Now the human mind looks at this holy construction and concludes, God is withholding. God is silent. God is late. No, not God. Consciousness is being prepared. The gift does not need you nervous. It needs you matched. It needs a receiver tuned to the station that has always been broadcasting. And the moment of tuning, mark this, is rarely noisy. In the instant you stop bargaining with the hour, stop rehearsing speeches to hurry people along, the needle moves. The peace that descends is not inactivity. It is evidence that the inner climate can now bear the fruit without rotting it. You ask, can I help this preparation? Yes, but not by forcing forms. You help by consenting. You help by refusing to call quiet a curse. You help by withdrawing your demand for signs on your schedule. You help by practicing the one truth until it lives in your breath. God is the source of my being and the infinity of my being. Nothing can be added to me. Nothing can be taken from me. From that center, action, if given, will be clean. Words, if given, will be simple. And restraint, if given, will not frighten you. This is cooperation with law, and you can hinder it. How? By baptizing fear as diligence, by calling your fretting trying, by changing plans every 72 hours to prove to yourself that you are not passive, by demanding omens and then doubting them, by stuffing your mind with more information because you distrust one truth. We will not do that. In our next step, we will make an honest inner audit and find where striving is pretending to be faith. For now, let preparation prepare you. Let the unseen have its way. Your own shall come to you when you and your own are of one piece. And that is the work now underway. Now we keep our word. We make the audit. Not to scold, no, but to bring into light what has been running the levers in the dark. Ask with me, simply, without drama. What is my striving trying to protect me from? Embarrassment? Irrelevance? Poverty? Being unloved? Name it. Don't varnish it. Striving is often fear in motion. When you name the fear, it loses its glamour, and law can reach you. All right, we begin. Now let us see the first disguise. Comparison. Where am I measuring my path against another's clop? Friend, colleague, classmate. The faceless timeline of the world. This produces counterfeit urgency, borrowed breath, borrowed beat, because you begin to run not by law, but by someone else's story. You look left and right, and seeing another door open, decide yours is late. Who told you your harvest and their harvest were due on the same sun? No one. No one. There are no detached outer effects. All flows forth from consciousness. The minute you adopt their clock, you adopt their fear. You leave your own center, and then call the nausea motivation. Withdraw the tape measure. Return to law. My own shall come to me, mine, not yours, by the tone of my consciousness, not by your calendar. Now the second disguise, bargaining. Where am I promising future goodness to purchase present outcomes? If this comes through, I'll be generous. If they say yes, I'll be faithful. That is distrust of inner supply. It imagines God as a merchant and you as a negotiator with coupons. No, no. God is my supply and the infinity of my being. Since I am one with my source, nothing can be added to me, nothing can be taken from me. When you bargain, you reveal a belief in outside givers. You postpone giving until you feel safe, and thereby certify to law that you are in lack. To him that hath, consciousness of having, shall be given. Begin with having. Give now in the measure given you now, kindness, service, honesty, and the bargaining mind will fall silent. Now the third disguise, control. Where do I demand the how before I permit myself to rest? Show me the route, step by step, and then I will trust. That is fear of externals pretending to be prudence. It insists that safety is in the map, not in God. But the law of unfoldment does not hand you the bridge while you are still on the shore. It gives you the next plank, and upon your foot's obedience, the next appears. When you require the entire blueprint, you declare that law is untrustworthy and that luck or people must be managed. Withdraw fear from externals, markets, managers, moods, headlines. Rest in the inner sufficiency that says, already mine, and the next right step will not fail you. Now the fourth disguise, identity. Where have I believed I am my timeline, my age, my resume, my sequence of milestones? That belief straps you to a clock and calls it self. Inwardly, that is not you. Outwardly, we look like all the other human beings, yet inwardly, we are not the same people when we know Source. Identity is not a date. Identity is oneness. I and the Father are one. Accept this even in small degree, and you will feel the band loosen around your chest. You will act, yes, but not to prove you exist. You will rest, yes, but not to escape. Action and rest will both issue from being, not from a deadline. Now take a simple indicator and keep it near. If your effort leaves you tense, resentful, depleted, it is not spiritual activity. It is pressure. Spiritual activity may be exacting, may be wholehearted, but it leaves a residue of peace, clarity, not collapse, readiness, not recoil. When you taste pressure, stop. Do not push through. Return to one truth. God is the source of my being and the infinity of my being, already mine, and wait until the breath evens. Then, and only then, take the next step. That is the audit. That is how fear in motion is unmasked, and that is how unfoldment finds you where you are. Now your first reaction will be, but I don't know enough truth to practice this. That's not true. That's not true. There isn't anybody within range of my voice who does not already know enough truth to heal impatience. The mistake is not ignorance. The mistake is accumulation. You believe that if you had 99 more statements, your treatment would be 99 times more effective. No, no. Truth is one. One statement of truth, rightly understood, contains all truth, because truth is indivisible. Your need is not more information. Your need is one truth practiced until consciousness rests.
All right. Then we do not shop for slogans. We choose one and we stay with it. If your mind tries to bargain, perhaps I should add this and that and a bit from yesterday's book. Smile and return. 1. You may take, I and the Father are one. Or you may take, all that the Father hath is mine, already mine. Or you may take, there are no detached outer effects, all flows forth from consciousness. Choose one, any one, the one that meets you now, and make of it your treatment for impatience. How do you use it? Not as a chant to make a phone ring or a door open. Not as magic words to bend hours to your will. You use it as a return to consciousness. When the surge rises, tight throat, shallow breath, the hand that wants to send 3 more emails to force the moment. Stop. Do not add activity to anxiety. Be still a minute, 60 seconds if that is what you have. Let the words be slow, honest, unhurried, as if you were laying them across your own shoulders. I and the Father are one. Again, not to get, but to be. I and the Father are one. Wait until the body softens its argument, until the mind releases its grip on outcomes. If your choice is, all that the Father hath is mine, let it sink past the ear. All that the Father hath is mine, already mine. Let each word uncurl your fingers from the clock. If your choice is, there are no detached outer effects, let it correct the superstition that people and pages and markets are your master. Stay until the atmosphere changes. That is the work. Don't forget this. The purpose of treatment is rest, not result. Result appears because rest reveals law. When you rest in one truth, you cease pushing the river. You are carried by the current that was already ordered. Then timing ceases to be your project and becomes your discovery. The call that is yours arrives without your chase. The word that is yours comes without your haste. The restraint that is yours does not scare you because you are not starving. One truth has fed you. And do not say, but it didn't work yesterday. That's the clock talking again. Treatment is not trial. It is recognition. Each time you return, you are training the mind to trust being over becoming, law over luck, source over schedule. In the degree that you persist, even 1 minute, even 3 breaths, the panic loses its authority. And in that loss of authority, timing reveals itself as it always has, quietly, rightly, without strain. One truth is enough. Practice until consciousness rests, and what is yours will not be late. It cannot be late to oneness. Now we pivot. As long as life is getting, delay is torture. As long as you are leaning forward with open mouth, begging the hour to feed you, every minute is a famine. But when life becomes giving, the sting leaves time. The breath returns. The shoulders come down. Why? Because giving is the proof of already mine. Giving is not a performance of charity to buy a result. Giving is the natural function of spiritual being. It is casting bread upon the waters because there is bread. It is not tossing crumbs with a prayer that the tide will notice you.
It is the effortless outflow of one who has recognized source within. Now let us be very practical, because law must be lived to be known. Giving is not only coins and checks. It is attention, undivided, unhurried, offered to the person before you without glancing at the clock. It is integrity, doing an honest day's work when nobody is watching, not to earn favor, but because truth is your atmosphere. It is service, quiet, unfussy help where you are, in the measure given you, without announcing it to your fear as proof that you are trying. It is forgiveness, releasing the ledger you have kept on the one who slowed you down, because you will not consent to be tied to their clock 1 minute more. It is prayer, for another, not for their agreeing with your plan, but for their peace, their protection, their unfoldment. It is blessing a competitor and meaning it. It is a phone call of encouragement instead of a second email of pressure. It is a thank you note in place of another reminder. It is returning an overpayment. It is sharing an idea without clutching. It is leaving a room better than you found it. Penny, nickel, dime. Attention, integrity, service, forgiveness, prayer. That is bread. All right. Now you ask, how does this accelerate right timing? Hear it by law. To him that hath consciousness of having shall be given. Giving is the deed of having. When you give, you withdraw belief from outside supply, and you identify with inner infinity. The cramped self, pinched and counting, loosens. Flow is restored. Fear, which had been damming the river with its calculations, weakens and breaks. And because there are no detached outer effects, the outer begins to agree with the new tone. Conversations ease, the almost stops stuttering. The delayed peace arrives without your chase because you, in giving, stopped announcing not enough to the universe. Do not turn this into a bargain with God. Do not say, I will give to get timing to move. No. That is getting in costume. Give because God is the source of your being and the infinity of your being. Since you are one with your source, nothing can be added to you, and nothing can be taken from you. Giving is simply living out of that fact. It is how waiting becomes living. You do not wait by holding your breath. You wait by breathing peace into the room you are in. You do not wait by shrinking your life to a vigil by the phone. You wait by filling today with the proofs of abundance that are within your reach. The kindness you can offer, the accuracy you can bring, the resentment you can lay down, the prayer you can send, the quiet hand you can extend. Now watch what happens inside when you move from getting to giving. The hour ceases to be a judge and becomes a servant. You find that you are busy without pressure, available without appeasing, quiet without passivity. And in that poise, right timing does not need your whip. It comes out to meet you, not because you forced it, but because giving has testified, already mine, and law must honor its own nature. Your own shall come to you, not late, not early, but right, because you have stopped living as a beggar and begun living as an heir. Now we come to poise. Hear it not as a picture, but as a felt stance. Serene, I fold my hands and wait, yes. But do you hear the life in that? Not limp, not vacant, serene. The serenity is not from quitting, it is from knowing. Knowing what? That law is operating even when unseen. That my own shall come to me, not by chase, not by luck, but by unfoldment. And when law is operating, You do not need to seize the seed and pull it open to prove it is alive. You let the life in it do what life always does. That is waiting. That is spiritual waiting.
Now let us be clear. Resignation says, nothing works, so why try? That is despair dressed in a robe.
Spiritual waiting says, everything real is working, quietly, rightly, even when I cannot point to a sign. One sighs into lethargy, the other breathes into attention. One abandons the field, the other tends the row that is already underhand. All right, then what does this look like at 9 in the morning? You do what is in front of you with honesty and care. This email, this line of code, this page, this sink of dishes, this child's question, this ledger. And you do it without borrowing tomorrow's fear or yesterday's grievance. You refuse frantic overreach, no second, third, fourth message stacked with pressure to make a door open. You refuse despairing withdrawal, no vanishing into avoidance because the first answer did not flatter you. Calm action without pressure. That is the posture.
Now watch for the signs that you have entered this poise. The compulsion to check, the phone, the inbox, the tracking number loosens. The need to chase and explain and justify yourself softens. Your words get shorter, straighter, kinder. Forced conversations fall away. You do not manufacture a meeting to prove you are not passive. Decisions become cleaner. You sense the inner yes or the inner no without a committee of anxieties voting. Hours feel roomy, not because you have nothing to do, but because you are doing only what is yours. There are no detached outer effects. The outer reflects the new climate. Fewer knots, fewer almosts, fewer apologies for having pushed. You discover that rest and movement can share the same hour. Now don't forget this. To him that hath, consciousness of having, shall be given. Poise is the deed of having.
When you carry already mine into the room, you do not need to decorate your work with urgency to make it valuable. The calm you bring is not passivity. It is authority, quiet, unforced, free of hurry. You sign when it is yours to sign. You wait when it is yours to wait. You bless in either case. And because you are not starving, you do not nibble at every offer or fling words against every closed door to hear yourself act.
Now lift this beyond the private. When one consciousness withdraws fear from time and externals, there is a measurable stilling in the circle it touches. 2 do it, 10 do it, 100. Families breathe easier, offices become less sharp, streets feel less hunted. The world's panic is contagious. Peace is also contagious. No decree is needed. The contagion spreads by law, because there are no detached outer effects. As the tone in us changes, the traffic of the world changes its driving. Yes, yes. In a moment, we will refuse the world's deadline outright. For now, take your seat in this poise. Serene, not slack. Ready, not roused. Your own shall come to you. Not late, not early, but right, because you are living by law, not by alarm. Now we do what we hinted a moment ago. We refuse the world's deadline. Look out there. Economies with their quarterlies and forecasts, headlines that ring the bell every hour with urgent, feeds that measure worth by now, only today, last chance. All right. That is the theater. The world manufactures urgency and calls it realism. It baptizes hurry as virtue
and panic as prudence. Is it law? No. No. It is suggestion. It is hypnotism. It is the collective human mind projecting its fear of not enough and then demanding you keep step to prove you are awake. We do not hate it. We do not fight it on its terms. We simply withdraw authority from it. We say, in our own chest, "You are not law. Greater is he that is within you than he that is in the world."
Now you see how the world's timeline tempts compromise. Under the lash of behind, you will be invited to shade the numbers, overpromise the delivery, flatter for access, cut the corner no one will notice, stay silent when truth would cost you, speak louder than your integrity, grind your team while baptizing it as excellence, borrow tomorrow's strength against a bet that fear can't lose. All to catch up to a clock that never stops moving the goalposts. That is getting in uniform. That is humanness crowned as wisdom. It will not heal you. It cannot heal you. Because there are no detached outer effects. All flows forth from consciousness. Pressure begets pressure. Fear in you must externalize as fear around you.
So here is the corrective, and it is firm. You do not heal pressure with more pressure. You do not answer a siren with a louder siren. You answer it by returning to the Christ of your own being. Christ not as person, but as fearless consciousness that does not hate, does not fear, does not bow to externals. I and the Father are one. Accept that now. All that the Father hath is mine, already mine. Accept that now. From that acceptance, act. From that acceptance, refuse. From that acceptance, wait. Then the schedule of the world loses its jurisdiction over your decisions. You deliver what is yours when it is right to deliver. You decline what is not yours without groveling. You tell the truth without theatrics. You keep tempo with law, not with noise. Now do not imagine this is withdrawal from duty. On the contrary, this is duty in its highest sense, non-violence of consciousness. To refuse panic inwardly is a moral act. It is saying to your family, to your office, to your neighborhood, we will not make fear our God. And because there are no detached outer effects, the circle around you will register it. Deadlines will still exist on paper, but the poison will be gone from your breath. Within 30, 60, 90 days, you will notice that without blare, you meet what is yours to meet. Cleaner, simpler, truer. While the world wonders how you caught up without clawing. You did not catch up. You came home. All right. Then the bravest protest against the world's deadline is not a speech. It is a private realization. Tonight, and every time the siren sounds, retire within and take your stand in one truth until consciousness rests. Let the feed keep spinning. Let the headline keep flashing. You will not withhold your work. You will simply refuse their fear as your authority. And in that refusal, peace comes, not as opinion, but as law. And timing reveals itself as what it has always been, the servant of oneness. All right, then tonight we practice, not as a display, not with announcements on a feed, in the secrecy of your own being. Go home, and if necessary, sit up all night and fight it out inside until the breath evens, until the mind releases its grip on the clock, until the heart consents to law. Close the door. Turn off the chorus. Make a sanctuary of the chair you have, and we will take a simple sequence, not 10 points, not a program, only this. First, name the delay you fear. Say it plain. The answer hasn't come. The door hasn't opened. The body hasn't mended. The money hasn't appeared. Name it. Bring it out of the shadow so it cannot run you from behind. Second, notice the getting demand beneath it. What must this hour give you to prove you are safe? Approval? Security? Vindication? Status? Control? See how the human mind wants to bargain with time. Give me, give me, give me, and call that diligence. No, no, that is humanness or getting. It is panic in a necktie. See it, name it, let it lose its glamour. Third, return to one truth, only one. I and the Father are one. Or, all that the Father hath is mine, already mine. Or, there are no detached outer effects. All flows forth from consciousness. Choose one. Let it be your whole universe for 5 minutes, for an hour, for the night if needed. Not to make anything happen, but to recognize what is. Repeat it until the shoulders drop, until the belly softens, until the will stops pushing. Fourth, offer it to Spirit. Lay the named delay on the altar of that one truth. Here is my fear. Here is my timetable. Here is my bargaining. I surrender them into oneness. I consent to preparation. Not my will, not the world's will. Law. Let the statement pray you, not you forcing the statement. Be still long enough for peace to answer. Fifth, act only on what is calm and clear. If from the rest an action rises, one email, one call, one correction, do it without pressure. If nothing rises, do nothing without apology. Right timing is not forced. It is welcomed. Serene, not slack. Ready, not roused. Now you will say, but what if nothing changes? That's the clock talking again. Consciousness changes first. Outer effects follow, never detached. The instant you withdraw fear from externals and consent to already mine, the atmosphere in you changes, and by law the picture must answer. We do not time the harvest, we tend the root. Dawn does not need your matchstick. It appears because it is its nature to appear. Within range of my voice, there is enough understanding to begin, today, because one truth is enough. Begin with the truth you have, not the one you wish you had. Sit until rest comes. Rise only with peace. And remember the doctrine we have lived all evening. What you call delay, Spirit calls preparation. Therefore, you are not behind. You are being readied. And when consciousness is ready, timing appears as naturally as dawn. Yes, yes, tonight.